Okay, so today quick tutorial about building a Kern tool inside of Houdini. Out of the box, Houdini doesn't have a Kern solution, and maybe the reason is because historically Houdini hasn't been used to do typography all that much, but maybe the real reason is because it's so easy to do, so let's dive in. So the first thing to do is to drop a font sub, and I will input valley typo because this is a good example of bad kerning. We want the A and every subsequent letters to be closer to the V. We also want to move the Y a little further away from the E, and we want the Y to be further away from the T. So this allows us to identify the fact that we will need two things in our Kern tool. The first one will be to be able to grab all letters at a certain point and move them back and forth. And the second one is being able to target specific letters and move them back and forth as well. Luckily for us, Houdini helps us identify primitives pretty easily with this button. Okay, but we can see that okay, so in this particular example, the sorting is correct, but a lot of times it won't be. So let me check with another example. Okay, as you can see, the sorting is all over the place, and this is not what we want. So we will need to use a sort sub before doing anything, so that we are sure that the primitives are sorted correctly on the x-axis. So let's just go back to the previous example, valley typo, and drop our sort sub. We will use sorting primitives on the x-axis. Okay, so now that this is done, I said that we want to move the primitives, but the thing is, in Houdini, you cannot directly move primitives. You have to move every point that belongs to said primitive to move the primitive. So what we need is not a primitive wrangle, but a point wrangle. So the first part of the tool I will implement is the one where you move an individual letter. For that, we will need two parameters. The first one is an integer that allows to target, in that case, primitive number 5. And the second one is a float that will allow us to offset said primitive. Int target. Now the float, it's offset and it's equal to offset. And now we just need to input a very little line of conditional logic that says if at num equals target, then at p.x equals p.x plus, so plus equals offset. Okay, so now we create our spare parameters. We target the y, and as you can see, it moves exactly like we want it to, except for the fact that it's not really handy that I cannot use the slider to go on the left side. So we'll just modify this spare parameter quickly. So to do that, you go inside of this little dented wheel and edit parameter interface. And now you can fetch offset and allow it to be moved from -1 to +1. Now it's moving both ways. Okay, so I think that now is a good time to tell you that the tool we're building will allow for only one kerning operation at the time. But there's one thing that I learned about time management, and particularly time management inside of Houdini, is that building over-engineered tools is always appealing, and it's always an option. And I've definitely been guilty of doing that. Quite a lot, actually. But often it's much more efficient, time-wise, to build a simple tool and to accept to drop multiple of those. Okay, so this wrangle is the target one, and we will build the other one. So we just duplicate this wrangle and call it slice, because it slices the sentence in two parts, and move the second one. And instead of using equals, we use greater than or equals target. And now you can see that we can easily move everything down the line. Okay, so now we will wrap this inside of a subnetwork. As you can see, I have a modified subnetwork asset. Out of the box, the subnet has 4 inputs, and often I don't need that much. So out of laziness, I built a 1 input subnetwork. So let's drop this one because we have only 1 input. Let's unlock the asset by allowing editing of content so that we can drop our nodes inside of this subnetwork. I think I want the sort too, so that we don't have to think of it when we use this asset. And now we will drop a switch so that we can choose between the 2 modes. Let's call this HNTBO Kern. So on this asset, what we want is the same parameters we built inside of the wrangles, and also a toggle to switch between the 2 modes. So let's drop just that. Edit parameter interface. Let's drop a toggle, then an integer, and finally a float. Okay, so our toggle is the mode. And so that we can easily see whether we're on the target mode or the slice mode, I will label it like so. So if it's empty, we're on target mode. And if it's not empty, we are on slice mode. This one is the target. I think we can increase the range size by a little margin. And our last parameter is the offset. And call that offset. Do the same range as previously. -1, 1. And accept all of that. Now we just have to link everything to the correct parameters. Let's copy parameter and paste that on our switch. Now we copy the target and paste it on both our target parameters on the nodes. And finally, we copy parameter, offset, and paste it on the nodes offset. And this should work like intended. So click and target the A, primitive number 1, and yeah, it's doing the thing. So if I uncheck it, we'll see that I'm moving only the A, and if I check it back, I'm moving the right slice. This is why I want to move it all alone. So it's in target mode, primitive number 5, and we can space it like so. And finally, our second Y, we want to be in slice mode. It's primitive number 7, and we can offset it just a tiny bit so that the spacing here matches the spacing there. And yeah, I think it's quite good like that. Maybe just a tiny bit. Now our valley typo is correctly kerned. Maybe we should actually, maybe the gap here is a little too big. So let's just drop another Kern tool and target the E, primitive number 4, and we're in slice mode. And this time, okay, I think this is about it. Okay, so let's quickly do a before and after. Yeah, it's much better. Okay, so the last step is to turn this into a Houdini digital asset so that we can call it whenever we want in the future. And to do that, I will first go to the parameter interface and copy every parameter I created at the top level, because in the process of saving this as a digital asset, we will need to paste them once again. To save as a digital asset, you right-click, digital asset, save copy as, and now we can input a name. So this will be HNTBO Kern Tool. All right, create. So no matter what you choose here, you will lose the parameters. So we might as well destroy everything and just go there inside of the parameters and paste it back since we have them copied. Okay, so now let's go back here. We can choose an icon that is more representative of what we've done here. So let's go to the home folder, side of Houdini 21, icons, sub, and we will use the font sub icon. So it's font.svg and accept it. Okay, now we should be able to call our little tool. So we can see that we indeed have the parameters. Okay, target, let's target the A like we've seen before, which is primitive 1. And after that, you chain the Kern tool and you do your kerning like a pro designer who cares about typography. Just to go back to the spare parameter things, I suspect that I might not be using the correct workflow to correctly save my assets. So if you know a better way, I would be very grateful if you can just point me towards the right direction in the comments, because I've always felt that this old destroy spare parameters things was like a bit messy, so I'm probably doing it wrong, but I did a lot of poking around and never found the correct way. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you know a better way. And voila, that's it for this Kern Tool video. If it was helpful to you, please consider giving a like and a subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!